Welcome to HardScript.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I came home on a Thursday night to find half the closet empty and my wife's perfume still hanging in the air like a ghost that didn't know it was dead. No note, just a text waiting on my phone. Let's be single for a bit. For the vibe. That was it. 9 years together. Gone in 7 words and a period. My name's Ethan Cole, 36. Project manager at a construction firm in Austin, Texas. I've built things my whole life. Homes, systems, order. But that night, standing in our quiet apartment, all I could think was how fast everything solid can turn to smoke. I didn't call her. Didn't drive to her sister's or blow up her phone like some desperate man clinging to the wreckage. I just stared at the text until my vision blurred. Then I typed back, "Sure, I'll vibe somewhere else." That's when something inside me switched. Not anger, not heartbreak. Something quieter, colder. A new kind of calm I hadn't felt before. We'd met 10 years ago at a friend's barbecue. Jessica was all fire and laughter, the kind of woman who turned every head when she walked into a room. She used to say I was her calm, the rock in her storm. Somewhere along the way, she started confusing calm with boring. Started talking about energy, about needing space, about rediscovering herself. I thought it was just a phase. Turns out, it was an exit strategy. I didn't touch her things. Didn't trash the place or scroll through her photos looking for clues. I just sat down at the kitchen table, opened a notebook, and wrote 3 words. Freeze. Track. Respond. Old military habit. I did 4 years in the Marines before settling into civilian life. When the world turns sideways, you don't panic. You observe. You gather intel. You make a plan. By midnight, I'd already changed the passwords to our shared accounts. The next morning, I called the bank to separate finances, moved my direct deposit to a new account, and scheduled a locksmith for the weekend. No texts from her. No calls. But I knew Jessica. She wasn't gone. Not really. She'd circle back once she realized freedom wasn't as fun as responsibility. Once the vibe wore off. The thing is, by then, I wouldn't be waiting. When I looked in the mirror that night, something about my reflection felt different. The softness in my eyes was gone. What stared back at me was the version of me I'd buried years ago. The one who didn't beg, didn't explain, didn't chase. Jessica wanted single life for the vibe. I'd give her exactly what she asked for. And when she came back, I'd make sure she understood what silence really sounds like. The first weekend without her felt like a drill in discipline. No calls, no texts. No explanations. Just silence, measured and deliberate. I woke early Saturday, made black coffee, and sat on the balcony watching the city wake up. It felt strange, too calm, too still, but beneath that calm, something sharp was forming. Jessica's social media lit up by noon. A post of her out with friends at a rooftop bar, laughing, holding a drink, captioned single era. For the vibe. Dozens of likes. Her friends cheering her on. The same people who'd eaten at our table, who'd toasted our anniversary 6 months earlier. I didn't react. I just noted the timestamp, the location tag, and closed the app. Information has weight if you know how to use it. By Monday, she'd moved her things out completely. A mutual friend texted that she was staying with her coworker, a guy named Ryan. Tall, gym-built, the kind of man who smiles too wide in every photo. I didn't need to confirm it. I'd seen him before. The way his hand lingered too long when he greeted her. The way she used to mention his name a little too casually. That night, I started running again. 6 miles through downtown, every step clearing the fog out of my head. I wasn't running from her. I was running towards something else. Focus, control, precision. The version of myself that existed before compromise. At work, no one knew anything. I kept my composure, kept producing results. My boss even said I seemed more locked in lately. He wasn't wrong. I'd started applying the same project management systems to my personal life. Tight processes, minimal emotion, maximum efficiency. By week 3, Jessica reached out. Just one line. Can we talk? I waited an hour before replying. About what? She didn't respond that night. But the next morning, she called. I didn't pick up. See, here's the thing about silence. It's not absence. It's control. People think communication keeps them connected, but silence makes them listen. It's the echo that drives them crazy. By Friday, She showed up outside my building. I saw her from the window, pacing near my truck. I didn't go down, just watched her for a moment, phone in her hand, face tight with something that wasn't confidence anymore. I let her stand there for 15 minutes before she left. That night, I went out, met someone new. Didn't force it, didn't chase it. Just let the night move. Jessica wanted space. Now she had it, miles wide and silent as a grave. By the fourth week, everything about my life had changed, except the part she thought she owned. I'd stopped checking my phone, stopped waiting for her name to appear. Instead, I started building again. Quietly, strategically. My mornings began at 5. Gym, cold shower, coffee, work. Every movement deliberate. Every hour accounted for. People at the office started noticing. "You seem different," one said. I just smiled. Different was the point. Jessica's post slowed down. No more rooftop bars. No more cocktails with the girls. The pictures shifted, quotes about healing, about rediscovery, about taking time to find herself. The kind of words people use when the party ends and the silence starts to sting. I didn't unfollow her. I just stopped reacting. Because silence is more powerful when the other person knows you're capable of noise, but choose not to make it. That Friday, I got an email from her. Formal tone, like she was writing to a stranger. She wanted to pick up a few remaining boxes. I told her I'd leave them in the storage unit downstairs. No need for a meeting. She replied with a thanks, followed by a second email, shorter, hesitant. "Are you seeing someone?" I closed it without answering. 2 days later, she showed up anyway. I was in the parking lot, tightening the straps on my motorcycle when I saw her car pull in. She stepped out, different now, less makeup, tired eyes, holding herself like she wasn't sure what to do next. She said I looked good. I said nothing. She asked if we could talk, just for a minute. I nodded but didn't move. She said she'd made a mistake, that things just got confusing, that she'd needed space to think. Her voice cracked near the end. I didn't argue, didn't ask questions. Just looked at her and said, "You got your space. Keep it." Then I put my helmet on and started the bike. The engine drowned out whatever she said next. That night, she texted me again. Long messages, full of regret, late-night apologies. I didn't answer any of them. I just watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear until they stopped for good. It was strange, how the same silence that once hurt now felt like armor. Like peace. Jessica had wanted freedom for the vibe. What she didn't understand was that freedom cuts both ways. And mine had just started to taste good. By month 2, the storm had passed, but not for her. I could tell from the small things. A new account followed me, private, no posts. Same style as hers. Same timing as her old logins. People think they can vanish online, but patterns don't lie. At work, I was promoted. Bigger office, bigger paycheck. My boss said my focus had sharpened, that I carried myself like someone who'd stopped waiting for permission. I didn't tell him why. Some lessons are better learned in silence. One night, I ran into a mutual friend at a bar downtown. He mentioned Jessica without meaning to. Said she'd broken things off with the guy she was staying with, that she didn't seem herself lately. Drinking more, staying out late, trying too hard to look fine. I nodded once, didn't comment. But inside, a cold truth settled deeper. I'd already moved on, and she knew it. That weekend, I went hiking alone, no signal, no noise. Just me and the sound of gravel under my boots. Somewhere halfway up the ridge, I realized I hadn't thought about her once that morning. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was clean. When I got back to the city, there were 3 missed calls from her number. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I just deleted them. Then came an email, longer this time. She said she missed our home, our routines, the quiet mornings. Said she didn't know who she was without me. I read it twice. Then I archived it. I started dating again, not out of spite, not as a game, just because it felt natural. There was someone at work, Lauren, smart and grounded. We met for coffee, no expectations. It was simple, easy, the kind of peace I didn't know I needed. That same night, Jessica texted again. She said she'd driven by our old place, that it still smelled like me. Said she couldn't sleep, that she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't answer. Instead, I looked around the apartment I'd moved into, smaller, quieter mine. The kind of place that didn't hold echoes. Jessica had wanted a vibe. She got it. But now, every night she sat in the silence she created, and I knew. She finally understood what real quiet felt like. By the third month, I'd stopped marking time by her absence. It wasn't since she left anymore. It was just life. My days were full, precise, and quiet in the best possible way. But quiet doesn't stay unbroken forever. It started on a Tuesday morning. I was leaving my building when I saw her car parked across the street. Same silver sedan, same dent on the bumper. She wasn't inside, but the sight of it made the air feel heavier. Later that day, a text came through. She said she just wanted closure. Said she needed to talk face to face, just once. The kind of message that sounds calm on the surface but bleeds desperation underneath. I didn't answer. That weekend, she showed up at the gym. Said it was coincidence. It wasn't. She waited until I finished my set, then asked how I'd been. I said fine, like it was just another conversation with someone from the past. She tried to smile, but her eyes gave her away, swollen, tired, rimmed red. She said she'd been in therapy, trying to understand her choices. Said she'd been drinking too much, trying to fill the silence. I nodded, didn't offer comfort. That used to be my role, the steady hand when she lost control. Not anymore. She asked if I'd met anyone. I told her yes. She froze. Tried to smile again, said she was happy for me, but her voice cracked on happy. The next day, I changed gyms. Moved my morning runs to a new trail. Shifted my schedule entirely. I wasn't running from her. I was keeping distance. Clean lines. Boundaries. At night, I checked her old profile again, the one she'd once filled with rooftop photos and laughing friends. Now it was empty. Just a black and white quote. Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. I stared at it for a moment, then closed the app. Not with anger. With understanding. She'd wanted a single life for the vibe. But freedom without purpose turns into loneliness fast. And loneliness, real, deep, quiet loneliness, isn't loud. It's a whisper in an empty apartment. It's her crying where no one sees. By month 4, I'd stopped checking for her shadow. The silence that once felt like a weapon had become a rhythm I lived by. Work, training, sleep. Every detail in order. No distractions. No noise. Then one night, I got a message from an unknown number. It was her, but she'd changed phones. The text was simple. I'm sorry for everything. Can we meet? I stared at it for a long time before locking the screen. Some messages don't need replies. They're just echoes looking for walls. The next morning, I left town for a project site in Dallas. It was a week-long contract, long hours and late nights, exactly what I needed. I didn't think about her once, until the second night, when I got an email from my neighbor. Said a woman had been at my door twice, knocking, waiting, leaving nothing behind. When I returned home, I found a small envelope taped to my door. Inside was a photo. The two of us at a lake 3 summers ago, her head on my shoulder, both of us laughing. On the back, she'd written one line. I thought I'd never lose this. I didn't tear it up. I just put it in a drawer and closed it. That weekend, I ran into Lauren again, the woman from work. We grabbed coffee, talked for hours. She was easy to be around. No drama, no games. The kind of calm that doesn't need to prove itself. When she smiled, it wasn't performative. It was real. Later that night, I saw Jessica's name flash across my screen again. I didn't answer. The message preview read, I see you moved on fast. It wasn't jealousy, it was grief in disguise. I sat there for a long time, thinking about how people only call something fast when they never expected you to move at all. I slept well that night. No dreams. Just quiet. The next morning, another message came through. Can we just talk once? Please. I muted the conversation. She wanted closure, but closure is something you build yourself. I'd already built mine, one boundary, one decision, one silent morning at a time. And somewhere out there, she was finally realizing what silence sounds like when it doesn't answer back. By month 5, she stopped trying to contact me directly. But silence doesn't mean absence, it means shift. The kind of quiet that rearranges itself into new forms. I started hearing from old friends, ones I hadn't spoken to in months. Each conversation carried her name somewhere inside it, like a hidden watermark. She'd been asking about me, how I was, who I was seeing, whether I still mentioned her. I didn't. I'd learned something important during those weeks alone. Some people only understand love when it stops answering back. Jessica had always been the center of her own orbit. Now she was realizing I'd stepped out of it, and the gravity was gone. One night, after a long day on site, I came home to find a small package on my doorstep. No return address. Inside, a journal, hers. She must have dropped it off while I was away. The first few pages were messy, full of half-thoughts and guilt. By page 10, the handwriting started to shake. She wrote about the night she left, how she'd convinced herself it was liberation, how she'd woken up next to someone she didn't even like, trying to pretend it was freedom. There was one line that stood out. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He just disappeared. And that's what haunts me. I closed the journal and placed it in the same drawer as the photo. A museum of things that used to matter. Lauren and I had started seeing each other more often. Dinners, quiet evenings, no performance. She didn't ask about my past. She just existed in the present, steady and calm. With her, silence wasn't punishment, it was peace. Then, late one Friday, as I was walking to my truck, I saw Jessica again. She was standing near the curb, eyes tired, hair undone, wearing the same jacket I'd bought her 2 winters ago. She said she'd been waiting for me. Said she missed who we used to be. I didn't move closer. I just said I hoped she'd find what she was looking for. Her voice cracked when she said she already had, and lost it. Then she turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw her in person. After that night, she vanished completely. No texts. No new posts. Nothing. Only silence. And this time, it wasn't mine. 2 months passed without a trace of her. The silence was absolute now. No calls, no messages, not even mutual friends bringing her up. And yet, that absence carried its own kind of noise. I'd wake up sometimes before dawn, the world still dark, and wonder if she'd finally made peace or if she was somewhere out there still trying to fix something already gone. By then, my life had found a rhythm. Work was steady. Lauren and I were comfortable, moving at a pace that felt natural. She had a calmness I respected. She never asked about Jessica, never probed. She seemed to understand that whatever came before her wasn't a wound, just a lesson. But one night, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address again, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded twice. The words were short, simple, and clean, like she'd rewritten them 100 times to get the tone right. She said she was leaving the city, that she needed to start over somewhere no one knew her name. Said she hoped I was happy, truly happy, even if it wasn't with her. The last line read, "You were always the calm before my storm." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Weeks later, I saw a post from one of her old friends, just a picture of a moving truck, captioned "New Beginnings." That was the first confirmation she'd really gone. That night, I sat on my balcony again, the same one I'd stared from the night she left. The city looked different now. Not colder, not emptier, just balanced. The kind of quiet that doesn't hurt anymore. Lauren called, asking if I wanted dinner. I told her I'd pick something up on the way. When I hung up, I glanced at that drawer one last time. The photo, the journal, the letter. Artifacts of a life that had burned down clean. I didn't throw them away. I just closed the drawer gently, like sealing a file marked completed. Jessica had once said she wanted to be single for the vibe. Now, somewhere out there, she was learning that freedom isn't the absence of love. It's the echo that follows when love stops waiting. And that echo was all she had left. A year passed before I heard her name again. It came from a mutual acquaintance at a business conference. Casual conversation over coffee that turned unexpectedly personal. He said she was living up north now, working at some design firm. Said she kept to herself mostly, quieter than she used to be. Then he added, almost like an afterthought, that she didn't look the same anymore. Thinner, tired, older in the way regret ages people. I didn't ask for details. I just nodded, thanked him for the update, and changed the subject. But that night, as I drove home, I thought about it. Not out of longing, out of reflection. She had finally found the solitude she chased so hard, and it hadn't brought her peace. Lauren and I had grown closer. There was no drama, no performance, no power games. Just 2 people who understood timing, silence, and respect. We moved in together that spring, into a house near the lake. Every morning, I'd wake to sunlight on the water and think about how stillness could be beautiful when it wasn't built on pain. One evening, I received a final message. An email from Jessica, sent from a new address. The subject line simply read, "Thank you." The message inside wasn't long. She wrote that she had spent the year untangling who she was without me, that she'd stopped running, that she understood now why silence had been my answer, because sometimes the loudest goodbye is the one you never say. At the end, she wrote one last line. I cry where no one sees, but I'm learning to stand again. I read it once, then archived it. No anger, no sadness, just closure, the kind that comes from knowing you did everything right, even when it hurt. Later that night, Lauren found me on the porch, staring out over the water. She asked if I was okay. I said I was. Truly was. Because peace doesn't mean forgetting. It means nothing left to fix. Jessica had wanted space. She got it. She wanted to live for the vibe. She did. And now, she was living with the silence she created. As for me, I'd rebuilt quietly, patiently, the kind of rebuild that doesn't make noise, only results. And some nights, when the lake is still, I think maybe she hears that same quiet too. It's been 2 years now since the night she left. 2 years since the text that ended 9 years of marriage in a single sentence. Sometimes I still think about that message, those 7 words. How something so small could detonate a life so completely. But then I look at the life that grew in the silence that followed, and I realize the explosion wasn't destruction. It was clearance. I never answered her last email. There was nothing left to say. Words wouldn't change what happened, and silence had already done its job. Instead, I kept building. The house by the lake became home. Work kept climbing. I started teaching part-time at a community college, mentoring younger guys about structure, focus, purpose. The kind of lessons you learn only after everything collapses once. Sometimes people ask how I managed to stay so calm through it all. I tell them the truth. Calm isn't peace. It's control. You learn it when you have no other option. You hold your breath in the fire until the world stops shaking. Then one day, you realize the smoke is gone, and you're still standing. Lauren and I got married last fall. Small ceremony, just family and a few close friends. No spectacle, no noise. She wore a simple dress, no makeup beyond what she needed. When she smiled, it felt real, like still water under sunlight. After the vows, I stood there for a moment, watching her laugh with my sister, and thought, this is what rebuilding looks like when it's done right. I never saw Jessica again. Word eventually reached me that she'd moved overseas. New job, new start, new name online. I don't know if she ever found peace, but I hope she did. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind moves across the lake and the house creaks softly, I think about the line she wrote. I cry where no one sees. It doesn't sound like regret anymore. It sounds like truth. Everyone learns it sooner or later. The cost of silence, the weight of freedom, the echo that follows when love leaves the room. She chose her vibe. I chose my peace. And in the end, that quiet, cold, measured, final, is what set me free. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.